Hi, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first day of our game-changing webinar on SBL for December 2024 attempt. This is Hasan Dossani with you. I hope you guys are keeping well. So this webinar is spread over 2 days, today and tomorrow, okay? So there will be a lot of things which we will be covering in these 2 days. We will do a quick introduction for SBL. This is mostly for first time students. We will discuss various formats which are tested in your exam. We will talk about all the 5 professional skills, what they mean, how can we score good marks in professional skills. Then very important, we will talk about the exam techniques. This is one of the most important section for today. And then we will have a quick discussion with the global prize winners. They will share their input, their points. We will also cover technical articles. This will be done tomorrow. And then tomorrow we will do one question practice, like we will solve a real question so that you get an idea how to draft, how to link your answer. Then I will share the list of important topics, and finally we'll share the study plan for the last 3 weeks before your exam. Okay. Previous webinars. So this webinar for December is more than enough. I will be covering everything. So actually there is no need to watch previous webinars. But if you want to watch previous webinars, then you might check out December 2021 and March 2022 webinars, because in these two webinars, I have solved full case study. Okay. But this is more for self-study students, students who are already enrolled with me or they are planning to enroll for the revision crash batch next week. We will be solving a lot of questions in the live class. Now, how to ask questions. So I want you to ask as many questions as you want, because the webinar is all about clearing your doubts and answering your questions. But there's a way to ask question. Because the group size is big, you will have to type your question in the chat box. But what you need to keep in mind is that your question should pertain to the topic or slide under discussion, right? And towards the end of tonight's webinar, I will then take any open-ended questions. All right. So just after every 2-3 slides, I will take a pause. I will go through the chat box and just try to ask relevant questions relating to the discussion. Okay. A very quick introduction to myself. Well, most of you know me. Uh, I'm a fellow chartered accountant. I'm the CFO of a multinational insurance company based in Dubai since last 15 years, and teaching is actually my passion. And I just teach SBL. I specialize in SBL. I have been teaching this subject for last 20 years now. But the most important thing is my WhatsApp number here. That's my personal WhatsApp number. If you have any questions later on, you can easily reach out to me. Okay. Also, I manage a global WhatsApp group for SBL. If you are already part of any of the global WhatsApp group by Hasan Dossani, then it's okay. Otherwise, you can join this group. Okay, a big shout shout out and hats off to some of my September students. The high achievers, they've been absolutely great. The top scorers was called Chirag from UAE. He scored 90% marks in September attempt, followed by Ashna from Mauritius, Hashir from Pakistan, and the list goes on, right? So I'm trying that we can get hold of Chirag so that he can share his real experience of how he managed to score 90 marks, right? That's crazy marks in SBL. SBL pass rate is improving. It's 50, and then it was 52 in the last three attempts. And in the very last attempt of September, the pass rate was 53%. This is the highest pass rate in the history of SBL. This is very fantastic news, right? The passing rates are quite healthy. And I hope that if this continues, you stand a good chance to pass. Now, SBL is a very different paper, different from all your other ACCA papers. It is not like any other paper. It is not linked with any paper. And the approach, the attitude, the techniques are way different for SBL, right? So, number one, it is one integrated case study, which means that only one case study will be there, and all the questions will be coming from that one case study. Then, knowledge of topics is less important. Application of knowledge is more important. This is a very important sentence. Knowledge of topic is less important. Application of knowledge is more important for SPL. Why I'm emphasizing on this is because a lot of students, they are trying to obtain knowledge. They are focusing on the book, the topics, the chapters, the models, basically the theoretical side. But SBL is not about, it's less about knowledge and more about application of that knowledge. And application of knowledge can only improve through drafting and practice. So majority of the students are focusing on gathering the knowledge, but unfortunately they are not focusing on drafting and practice. Actually, it should be the other way around, right? Less time on gathering of knowledge and more time on application, because the paper is all about application of knowledge. And then 20% of your paper is professional skills marks, less emphasis on models and theoretical answers. There are so many formats which are involved in SBL. And last one is very dangerous. This one. 50% of the SBL paper is based on common sense. Common sense means that you don't require any theoretical knowledge. You just have to do logical thinking, and based on the information available in the exhibit, you just think logically and give your arguments. Some students find this easy, and some students find this difficult because logical thinking and expressing your thoughts sometimes it's not easy, right? So again, this is an area where a lot of students they struggle in SBL, and it can only improve through more and more practice, doing practice of common sense questions. 50%, more than 50% of your paper is common sense. Right. So this is a technique which, I had designed. And when I talk to the global prize winners, the country prize winners, when I talk to the high scorers, people who score 80, 85, 90 marks in SBL, all of them said that they had used this technique. What is this technique? I always suggest to my students that you should not think like a student when doing SBL. When you are giving SBL exam, you should not think like a student. You should think like a CFO or a business leader, because SBL is all about business leadership. So always feel when you're giving the paper, try to imagine that you are one of the leaders of the organization. You are sitting on the board. Maybe you are the finance director of the CFO of the company. If you were the CFO, what would you have done in that situation? You see, so you have to wear a hat of a senior person. There's no harm in imagining, right? And when you are drafting your answer, just imagine that you are explaining your thoughts to the board of directors. When you adopt this mindset, automatically your thought process will change. The thought process of a student is more of an accountant, is more of a, small level thoughts, micro matters, petty matters. But when you start thinking like a CFO, and when you feel you are talking to the board, automatically your thought process will uplift, and you will start seeing the big picture of the business, right? So when you are drafting, practice thinking, try to adopt this approach. This is a tried and tested approach, and all the high scorers have mentioned to me that this approach had really helped them. All right, so before we go into more details, I would like to just show you the CBE platform, the platform where we will be solving the paper, right? So let me just go to the CBE platform. On the CBE platform, you will see Strategic Business Leader. You can click on ACCA Official Resources. And you can click any past exam, practice exam, or specimen. So let me select specimen exam, and let me select specimen exam 1. Once you assign it, specimen exam, where is it? Okay, let's open this one, practice exam 1. So this is how this will be the landing page. In fact, let me open the specimen exam specifically. This one, SBL specimen 1. So when you will open the CBE platform, on the left side, you will see the exhibits. So in this particular paper, 4 exhibits have been given to you. Exhibit means some additional information, right? So on the exam day, some additional information is provided to you. For example, Exhibit 1 is about contract terms to supply bed mattress. Right. So this exhibit provides you the contract terms to supply bed mattress. Okay. Exhibit 2 is about staff survey result. So, it's something about staff survey. The third one is email from HR director. And this one is about staff training and development. Okay. And the last one is email from finance director. And this one is about issues identified in audit and risk committee. Right. So 4 exhibits have been given. The original pre-scene material, which was published 2 weeks before the exam, that will also be available on your CBE platform on your exam day, right? So if you want to look at some pre-scene information again, you can quickly click on here. Then there is a task. Task means the requirement. And then your answer tools, the response options, the word processor, the spreadsheet, and slides. For SBL, we will be using the word processor, right? We will not be using the spreadsheet at all. There is no need to use spreadsheet at all. And if if any question requires us to prepare a presentation slide, then we will use the presentation slide option. Otherwise, by and large, your entire drafting, your entire answer will be on the word processor. Now, if you look at the task, is task number 1 worth 34 marks. Okay, this is task number 1. So where is task number 2 and task number 3? I don't see it on this screen. Do you have any idea? Where is task number 2 or and task number 3? Right. So it's on the next page. So how do you go to the next page? You have to scroll down this bar, you have to scroll down this bar, and then you press next. So now you go to page number 2. So everything will be same, only the task number 2 will be there. So when you are solving task number 2, you will use the word processor, this one. So there are 3 tasks and there are 3 word processors, each for each task, right? How do you go to task number 3? I press next, but it's not taking me to task number 3 because you have not viewed the entire screen. Okay, so I will scroll down. I will scroll down and then it will take me to task number 3. And this is task number 3. Now, if I want to go back to task number 1, again, I will have to scroll down. I might use this task number 1. So, there is unnecessary scrolling to page number 2, then page number 3, then page number 1. So that's kind of a limitation of the CBE platform, but we will have to live with it. You can easily, when you are reading any exhibit, you can easily, highlight any information. You can easily copy information and paste it on the Word document. Okay, so pretty much straightforward. All right, let's go back. Now, why do you think students fail SBL? So I have gone through all the examiner's report of every attempt. I look at it in great detail because I want to read the examiner's mind. What is he expecting? What is the problem? What weaknesses is the examiner pointing out? Right? So it's very important that we understand why students they fail SBL so that when we are preparing for December, we should try and avoid those mistakes. So the examiner feels that the answers are not linked with exhibits. Students, they are giving general answer. Students are giving theoretical bookish answer. They are not linking with the scenario. So please keep in mind that when you are drafting your answer should be in accordance with the scenario, the information provided in the pre-scene, the information provided in the additional exhibits. All your answers has to be from that. There is no marks for general or theoretical answer. So your answers has to be linked with the exhibits, right? And sometimes he feels that students are just copy pasting materials from exhibits. Simply copy pasting information from the exhibit and putting it on your answer sheet is not going to get you any marks. There is no marks for copy pasting. Whenever you copy paste any information, you will have to explain your point. What is it going on in your mind? You have to tell them why this point is important or how it's going to affect us, right? So I've mentioned the solution here that always start your point or paragraph with a statement of fact, copy pasted from the exhibit. I always call this the punchline or the opening sentence. Your point should start from the information provided and then we will elaborate on it. We will talk about the reason, we can talk about the impact on the business, right? The second main issue is time management. Students, they overspend time on one particular question and hence they are not able to complete the entire paper. So time management is again one of the most common reasons why students fail SBL. So you have to be very, very careful of your speed, your timing discipline, all those things. The third one is since 50% questions are common sense, hence bookish theoretical students, they struggle. For common sense questions, a lot of students they struggle because no bookish knowledge is going to help you, right? You have to think logically. So again, this will come through a lot of practice. Another common reason is not understanding the requirement correctly. So sometimes the requirements are drafted in a confusing manner. Sometimes the requirements have a tricky language, right? And which what happens is that students, when they read the requirement, they don't really understand the requirement and or they misunderstand the requirement. And of course, when you misunderstand the requirement, your answer, your direction will go in a wrong tangent, right? So it's very, very important to properly understand exactly what is required. You will have to read the requirement couple of times. And again, this will improve through practice only. And then the item number 1 to 6 is the most common reason. And then sometimes students have poor basic knowledge. Sometimes they don't write sufficient number of points. And then sometimes the students, they do not do sufficient drafting and mocks. That's very important. All right. Any questions so far relating to whatever we have discussed? Any questions so far on what we have discussed up till now? Spelling mistakes. Spelling mistake is not an issue. Okay. It is a spelling mistake is not an issue. Grammatical mistake is not an issue as long as it is in a reasonable extent. If you make one or two spelling error here and there, if you make one or two grammatical mistake here and there, no problem, no marks will be deducted. But if you make excessive spelling mistakes, every line has two spelling errors, or you make excessive grammatical mistakes, then maybe 1 or 2 marks will be deducted. But if it is a normal thing, like reasonable level, then nothing will be deducted. Insha is asking, how can we think like a CFO? Just imagine it is your own business. If you can't think like a CFO, then think that you are the owner of the business. I'm sure you guys are not that dumb, right? If you start a small business on your own, you have some basic sense, right? So just activate that common sense. Maha, I will cover all this. Please ask questions which are relevant to what I have discussed so far. What is a statement of fact? A statement of fact is a sentence which we pick up or we copy from the exhibit and we use that to draft our point. All right. Some of the questions I will answer as we go along in the presentation. Okay. Now, this is a very interesting indicator in my long experience of SBL. Those students who obtain marks in late 40s, like 45 to 49, this is for research students. What are the common reasons? So, those students who scored between 45 and 49, either the most fundamental reason is insufficient practice or insufficient time-based marks. That's the number one reason for most people. Okay, this is a generalized thing. So for most people, if you scored in this range, the first most common reason is that you did not practice enough. The second most common reason is you were not able to complete the paper. The third reason is insufficient number of points. So do you think point number 2 and point number 3 are linked? So, sometimes students tell me that they were able to complete the entire paper, but then they were not able to give the sufficient number of points. Where 8 points were required, they just wrote 4 points or 5 points. So it's not about completing the paper in isolation. You have to balance the timing with the sufficient number of points according to the mark. Okay, so these two are linked. And then another possible reason is that the student did not understand any requirement correctly. So if you did not understand one question, you will straight away lose 10, 15, 20 marks, right? And lastly, students who are not able to clear the paper have given two papers together. This is also a very interesting fact that I have seen that 90% of the students who are giving two papers, they flunk SBL for some reason. Okay, so if you are planning to give two papers in December, please be mindful of this fact that 90% students, they are not able to clear SBL when they give two papers. Yes, there are 10% students who clear both papers, right? So you better be in that 10% student. Now, those students who obtain 45 marks, less than 45 marks, what is the most common reason? All the above points plus weak theoretical knowledge or conceptual issues. So this is just a guide for students who are resitting in December. Now, a little bit about the pre-scene format. I still feel that there is some confusion in the student community regarding the pre-scene thing in SBL. So the pre-scene format was introduced in September 2023, like more than a year back. So this will be your fifth, it will be the fifth exam in the new format. December attempt will be the fifth exam in the new format, right? So just be clear that there was no change in the syllabus, only the paper pattern was changed. The pre-scene case study will be published 2 weeks before the exam. So in your case, the pre-scene case study for December attempt will be published on 20th November 2024. Okay. The same case study will come in your real exam, and all the students around the globe have the same case study. Okay. On the exam day, some additional exhibits, 3 to 4 exhibits, along with 3 questions will be given. So on the exam day, some additional information will be given to you in the form of exhibits, and the questions will be given to you. So the pre-seen case study is the same for all students, but the questions and the exhibits might be different. For example, the exhibits and the questions for the morning batch is normally different. The exhibits and questions in the afternoon batch is normally different from the morning batch and the evening batches. Why? Because then students, the morning batch students, they share the paper after the exam, right? So ACCA is not dumb. So they might have 2 or 3 sets of exhibits and questions, but the pre-scene will always remain the same. They will change the exhibit and they will change the requirements. Okay. Now, 80 to 90% of your answer should be from the exhibit. So a lot of students, they ignore the exhibits and they use the pre-scene to answer, to draft their answer. That's wrong. 80% of your drafting should be based on exhibit, and only 10 to 20% of your answer or drafting should be from the pre-scene. Okay. Your main source of data or information is exhibit on the exam day. The paper duration is 3 hours and 15 minutes. Earlier, it used to be 4 hours, but after the pre-scene format, the paper duration is 3 hours and 15 minutes, which is fine. It's absolutely no problem because they have published the pre-scene beforehand, 2 weeks before the exam, right? So you're expected to read the pre-scene before the exam so that you don't spend time in reading the pre-scene during the exam. So that is why they have reduced the number of tasks as well. So 3 hours and 15 minutes, it's pretty much okay. And the pre-scene material will also be available on the exam day on the CB platform. We just saw that few minutes back that the pre-scene is available on the CB platform. All right, guys, any questions so far on the pre-scene? Guys, please ask relevant questions. How can I deviate from the topic and start answering non out of scope questions? Okay, and some of the questions I will be covering under exam technique. All right. So that was all about the introduction to SBL. What is SBL about? Why students fail SBL? And the pre-scene, the CB platform, everything about SBL is now done. Now, are you guys ready for question exam drafting? Yes? No, not at all. Not at all. Before we start drafting, attempting exam questions, you have to familiarize yourself with the various formats. If you don't know the formats, how will you start your answer, right? So, what are the various formats? So, I have covered all the formats today. So, the most common format which is tested in your exam is report, briefing papers, sometime it is called briefing note, sometime it is called memo. These are the most 70% of the time this is tested. And it's very simple. You will give the heading. Let's say a report is required. It says draft a report evaluating the proposal. So on the top, you will give the heading report, and then you will say to, from, subject, date. And then you will say introduction, and then you will say this report, and then you can copy paste from the requirement what this report will actually do. This report evaluates the proposal to acquire blah blah blah. So this is the main format. This portion is the format. And then here, then your actual answer, you will start giving headings and subheadings and your points. And after you are done with the point, you will close your report through a closure like best regards and your role. Okay. So this is a report format. The same format is applicable on briefing paper, briefing note, and memo. Please look at this one. A lot of students, they ask me, sir, what about conclusion? No need to give any conclusion or recommendation unless the question specifically asks you to do so. All right? Because of time limitations, we will just give our points. No need to give a conclusion or summary or recommendation. If the question says draft a report, blah, 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 and give your recommendation, then obviously, yes, we have to give recommendation or conclusion. But if the question does not specifically ask for conclusion or recommendation, then avoid it, skip it. All right. Any questions on report format? Is this clear? The next format is called section of a report. Sometimes the examiner says draft a section of a report. He does not want a full report. He just wants a section of a report. Again, it's very simple. You will give the heading section of a report. You will just mention the subject, introduction, and closure. And here will be your main answer. Okay. So the yellow portion, the yellow shaded portion is the format, and the actual answer will be in here somewhere. Sometimes the examiner says draft an email to XYZ. So again, you will give the heading email to, from, subject, date, an opening sentence, and then the closure. Now, presentation, this is tested frequently. Okay. Sometimes the examiner says draft or prepare a presentation for the CEO or for the finance director or whoever. Prepare a presentation. A lot of students, they struggle here. So when a presentation is required, the first thing is on the CBE platform, you will not use the word processor. You will actually use the slides option. So I will click on the slide. All right. Can you see my screen? Whenever there's a question which says prepare presentation slides, then you will use the slides option under response tool. So when you click on slides, this window will open. This window says slide number 1, and then it is slide number 1 speaker note. So this is the main slide, and underneath is the speaker note. And then slide number 2, followed by slide number 2 speaker notes. All right. You will have to you'll have to type your points here. So let's take an example. Let's say the question is prepare a presentation slide discussing the advantage of e-commerce or online business. So do you know the advantage of e-commerce or online business? Can you give me a couple of examples? So global reach, more revenue, right? Customer convenience, no geographical limitation, 24/7, it is lower cost, it is personalized, right? So let's say we have to talk about 3 advantages. So on the slide number 1, you will give the heading. Okay. What is the first advantage? Second advantage? Third advantage? Okay. So slide number 1 will just have the bullet headings. There will be no explanation here. So where do you think the explanation of these 3 points should be? Where should be the drafting? Where should we do the drafting of these 3 points? Under speaker notes. Yes. So the slide is just the bullet points. I'm sure you have seen presentation slides. Slides don't have a lot of material, right? There are more pointers, there are more bullet points. Where is the explanation? So you will explain these 3 points here under speaker notes. So global reach, now you will type. So the slide here, the slide will only contain the headings and the speaker notes will contain the explanation. That's it. Is that clear? Any questions on presentation format? So now, when we will do more practice from next week, we will do several questions so your hands will get used to it. But as a basic understanding, it's pretty easy, right? The headings will go in the slide and the explanation will go in the speaker note. Now, sometimes a letter is also required. The examiner might ask you to draft a letter. So this format has not been tested in the last 7 or 8 attempts, but in the previous paper, 1 or 2 times letter was asked. So the letter, so I've just given the letter format. You will give the heading letter. First, you will give the date. Dear addressee, you will give a subject. You will give an opening sentence like this letter, this will discuss blah, 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 and then the closure. So you might need to just memorize this just in case, because it's a slightly different format than the rest we have discussed so far. Then also there's something called a press release or a website release. Again, this was tested in the previous papers, like before the pre-scene. Nothing has been tested now, but just in case, I just included this in the format. So what is a press release? A press release is when a company makes an announcement in the newspaper. And what is a website release? When a company posts an announcement on its website. So you will give the heading press release or website release. You will give the subject, name of chairman or CEO, name of company, the date, the opening sentence, and then the closure. Again, a different format. Do you want me to share this presentation after the class so that you can go through the formats? Okay, so once the webinar is completed tomorrow, I will share the presentation and the recording. All right. Now, 1 or 2 times the examiner has asked you to prepare a business case. Now, business case is a topic which comes under project management. So it was a project management related question. So a business case is very simple. There are 3 broad headings. So you will give the heading on top business case, and a business case includes current situation, what are the various options, and recommendation or selected option. That's it. Just remember that a business case has 3 broad headings. You will talk about the current problem, then you will discuss the various options, and finally, which option would you go for is under selected option. Lastly, there were a couple of questions on project initiation document. Again, it's a topic under project management. So you should be familiar with familiar with what are the items included in a project initiation document. So these are the items: scope and objective, cost benefit analysis, project sponsor, project manager, project team, other stakeholders, duration, key risk, constraints. So these are the contents of a PID. All right. Now, this is a very important slide. This is a very important slide. Why? Because in almost all the papers, the examiner asks you to identify weakness and give recommendation. Almost every alternate attempt, this topic comes in the exam. You need to identify the weakness and give recommendation. So whenever you get a question like this, I always suggest that you use a tabular format, a 2-column table. You can easily insert a two table column in the Word document on the CBE platform. On the left side, you will talk about weakness. On the right side, you will give the heading recommendation. And then you will give one weakness recommendation, second weakness recommendation, third weakness. So this will, in this way, your answer will be presented in a very structured manner. Similarly, there might be a question on identify risks and give recommendations. Again, the same approach that we will give a tabular format on the left side. We will identify the risks on the right column. We will talk about the mitigation factors. Okay. How do we insert a table on the CBE platform? Very simple. On the word processor, you open up the word processor. You will see this icon, table icon. You will click on this table. I want two columns and several rows. Done. So the table is here. You will write weakness. You will write recommendation. And you can start your answer. Okay. So I'm done with the formats. Any questions on the format? Gauri, please ignore the previous one and follow the latest one. Now, are you guys ready for the... Now you know all the formats. Okay. Are you ready for the exam? No. What about professional skills? So let me discuss professional skills. Professional skills, do you know how much marks it carries in SBL? Out of 100, how much marks is professional skills? 20 marks. Do you think it's a lot? Like, I think 20% of your paper is professional skills. So if you master professional skills, then 20%, 20 marks is done, right? Yeah. Professional skills will differentiate between pass and fail. Absolutely correct. So, professional marks, I don't call it professional marks. I call it cash marks. It's easy to score. It's low hanging fruit. If you know how to grab professional skills marks, you can easily score good, right? So it's, for me, it's cash marks. We should always try to score maximum in professional skills, right? So there are five professional skills. There are five professional skills in SBL: evaluation skill, analysis skill, communication skill, commercial acumen skill, and skepticism skill. So you need to understand what each of them means. Okay. So evaluation skill. I will not go into theoretical discussion, but I will just guide you in layman language what it means from an exam point of view. Evaluation skills means that you need to evaluate something. So whenever the question says demonstrate evaluation skill, this simply means that you have to discuss both advantages and disadvantages. You have to include both pros and cons. You have to include both positive points and negative points. That is evaluation skill. Evaluation means we cover both the positive side and the negative side. Is that clear? Whenever you see demonstrate evaluation skill, you include both the positive side and the negative side, advantages and disadvantages. Let's take an example. Can you evaluate ACCA degree? Please, can you give some points? Evaluate. I need 4 points. Please evaluate ACCA degree. Need 4 points. So when you are evaluating ACCA degree, you have to make sure that you include both the positive points and the negative points about ACCA. So positive point can be it's global, it's professional, it's growing, blah, blah, blah. Negative point can be it's expensive, it's time consuming, it's difficult. There's a lot of competition with other certifications. Done. Done. So evaluation skills simply means you have to include both pros and cons. Now let's take one step forward. Supposing you are you are suppose you, let's say you have to give 10 points in total. Okay. Assume that you have to give 10 points in total. So how many pros and how many cons? Very good. So the people who are saying depends, I'm sure you are my paid student, right? So there is no hard and fast rule that if 10 points are required, so there will be 5 pros and 5 cons. It's not like that. It all depends on the availability of information in the exhibit. It can be 7 pros and 3 cons. It can be 3 pros and 7 cons. It all depends on the information provided, right? The second complication is sometimes the examiner says critically evaluate. Critically means critically comes from the word criticize. And criticize means identify faults or mistakes. So when the question says critically evaluate, then you have to focus more in identifying the negative points, the disadvantages, the mistakes, the shortcomings. Is that clear? Very simple. You can give all negative points, or you can give one positive and then all the remaining points negative. So your negative points should be substantially more. Critically evaluate means you have to criticize, find faults or disadvantages, right? Done. The second skill is called analysis skill, that you need to analyze something. What is the meaning of you need to analyze something? Analyze something means investigating and identifying the reasons or the root cause. Okay, analysis means identifying the reason or the root cause from the exhibit. For example, the revenue of the company has significantly fallen. Okay. The revenue of the company has significantly fallen. Now, if we have to analyze this, then it simply means we have to identify the reasons for the decline in revenue, right? So, as long as you identify the reasons, explain the reasons, automatically analysis skills is done. And from where you will find the reasons? From where you will find the reasons? It will be mentioned in the exhibits. Yeah. Another example, let's say our staff turnover has gone up. Is that good or bad? Okay, our staff turnover has significantly gone up. That's bad, right? So, if we are asked to demonstrate analysis skills, what will we do? We will identify the reasons, we will investigate the reasons, identify the root cause why our staff turnover has increased, right? And from where we will find out? From the exhibit. Something will be mentioned there that maybe, our pay scale is very less, or there is insufficient training, or there is demotivation, or the competitors are hiring at a higher price, or maybe health and safety issue, or bad leadership, or poor working environment, or maybe it's gender discrimination, or anything, long working hours. Yes. So the reasons, as long as you identify any reason, any root cause, analysis skills. Is that clear? Analysis skills clear? You analyze the situation, you look at the reasons, underlying reasons. Good. Now, the third one is communication skills. So, obviously, this is straightforward that the way you are communicating should be professional, right? The way you are drafting, your tone, your language should be professional. You should be able to communicate your point in a logical, convincing manner, right? The way I'm communicating right now, I'm trying to talk to you in simple flow, simple manner, right? So there is nothing extra which needs to be done. What you need to keep in mind here is couple of things. First of all, you need to know your role. Okay. What is your role? And your role will be given to you on the exam day. For example, let me show you on the CBE platform, the same paper. So on the first page, the landing page, you see here it is mentioned our role. It says you are an independent business analyst employed by PSS to advise the PSS board of directors on various strategic projects and initiatives. So, what is our role? We are independent business analysts. So always your role will be given to you on the first page, and throughout all the questions, you will wear the hat of independent business analyst in this case study. Now, can anybody tell me in this particular case study, you are an independent business analyst employed by PSS to advise the board? Are we an external person or internal? in this particular scenario? Yes, we are an external consultant because it says we are an independent business analyst employed to advise, right? So in this case study, in this paper, our role is of an outsider, external consultant, a third party. So when you are drafting, your tone should sound like an external consultant, right? An outsider. You will use words like you, not us, but you. Is that clear? Now, supposing our role is finance manager. Supposing our role is finance manager, then is that person external or internal? We are the finance manager, so we are internal, right? So our drafting tone will now change. We will sound like an internal person. We will not use the word you. Instead, we will say we, us, our, because now you are part of the company, right? So all this tone, it's covered under communication skills, that our tone, and you also have to keep the reader in mind who the report is being addressed to. And the format. You see, if a report format is required, you give a proper format. So communication skills means use appropriate format. So whatever format is required, we draw a nice professional format. You have to keep in mind your role, the general layout and tone of your answer. That's it. Nothing extra needs to be done. Just sound professional, logical, keep your role in mind, and give proper format. Yes, yes, yes. So you have to demonstrate communication skills in all the requirements, right? The fourth skill is commercial acumen skill. A lot of students, they feel that they don't know what is commercial acumen, or they feel that they don't have commercial acumen. This is incorrect. All of you have commercial acumen. Do you agree? Okay, let me ask a question. Let me ask a question. Let me let me ask, stop writing. Do you have commercial acumen? Let me know. Ali Sultan is saying no. Be honest. Abdul Karim is saying maybe, not sure. Safyan is saying absolutely not. Very interesting. And then there are a lot more students. So you feel that you do not have commercial knowledge. What is commercial acumen? Commercial acumen simply means some basic high level knowledge of any business sense. All of you knows little bit about business. I'm 100% sure. It's just that you don't know what it is called. Right. So, for example, let's go back to the previous example. The revenues of the company is falling, right? The revenue of the company is falling. Why? Can you give me two, three, four reasons in your view why how the revenue can fall? Done. This is exactly commercial acumen. Economy is going down, the demand is going down, maybe the competitor is having a better product, our quality might be falling, government policies, political situation, product is obsolete. This is all commercial acumen. Less marketing, yes, done. No incha. Okay. Let me test you with another example. Our customer satisfaction rating has gone down. Why? Our customer satisfaction feedback has gone down. Why? Absolutely clear. Absolutely correct. Poor service, poor quality, staff behavior. Good. So, all of you have some basic general knowledge about the business, right? You are not that dumb. Come on. When you guys do variance analysis, you have done variance analysis, right? Ratio analysis, and you identify the reasons. That's all commercial acumen. When you make budgets, when I make the budget of my company, I start with revenues, products, revenues, pricing, then staff costs, and then this. So, whenever we make budgets, we do have some basic overall knowledge of the business, how it works, right? IT, don't we know about IT? There'll be hardware costs, there'll be software costs, there will be IT risks, cyber crime, data protection, training. Yeah, so basic knowledge everyone has. Come on, guys. So that's all commercial acumen. So again, nothing specifically needs to be done. Just don't sound like an accountant. Do you understand what I said? When you are doing your SBL, please don't sound like an accountant, because SBL stands for Strategic Business Leader. You are a part of the board. You think of the business overall, right? You want the business to grow, the profits to grow. So just when you talk common sense, customer satisfaction, competition, technology, human resource, marketing, all this is commercial acumen. Is that clear? The last professional skill is called skepticism skill. Skepticism comes from the word skeptical. Do you know the meaning of being skeptical? Questioning mind, doubtful. Very good. So if some of you are working in an audit field, it's a very common saying that auditors should always have a skeptical mind, because you're auditing something, you are checking things, right? So I'm a CFO, you're, and I have a very big finance team working under me. They are doing all the work. My job is to review the work, right? So, do you think a good CFO should have a skeptical mind? Obviously, I cannot trust blindly, right? Whenever someone comes and give me some report, some analysis, I will review it. I will ask counter questions. I will challenge. I will try to make sure that there is no error. That's skeptical. That's a skeptical mind. So in your exam, when the question says demonstrate skepticism skill, then you have to show the examiner that you have a presence of mind and you are challenging, you're asking questions, you are disagreeing with something, you're pushing back. Understood? So there are a couple of ways through which you can demonstrate skepticism. Number one, you might use the word I disagree. When you are drafting, you can say, I disagree with the comment made by the marketing director, and then you give your logic respectfully that this is why you disagree. So, disagreeing with something is showing skepticism. You're not accepting everything on face value. You're pushing back. You are disagreeing, but with logic and respect. Or you can ask some counter questions. So you can draft a question. You can ask a question. What is the breakup of this? On what grounds? How you are assuming this? What is your basis? So all this shows that you are challenging, disagreeing, asking questions. All this is showing skepticism. In my opinion, yes, that's fine. Or do you not think that's also fine? So skepticism means you're doubting, you are challenging, you are questioning, you are pushing back, or you're disagreeing. All right. Any questions on the 5 professional skills? All right. Now let me take you back to the. So if you, in the new format, let's say task number 1, each question, like question number 1A, prepare a report which evaluates the opportunities and challenges which must consider. Now, this question has its own professional skills requirement. In this question, you have to show professional skills. Marks are available for demonstrating analysis skills, that we have to read the exhibit in considering the most significant factors affecting the proposal. Right? It simply means that you have to read the exhibit and identify the significant factors which will affect this particular proposal. So as long as you identify the significant factors affecting the proposal, you're done. Part B. You see, the part B has a different professional skill requirement. Here it says professional skills for demonstrating communication skills in clarifying the most relevant information. So you have to demonstrate communication skills, try to clarify to the board. So your language, your tone should be simple and understandable so that the board can understand what you are saying. So it's really, you don't have to do anything extra. In my opinion, all the skills are applied in all the questions, in my opinion. We are showing communication skills in all the requirements. We are showing evaluation skills. So at one time, more than 2 or 3 skills can be demonstrated by default. But in particular, we have to focus on the one mentioned in the requirement. Is that clear? All right. So now, are you guys now ready for the paper? So we are done with all the formats. We are done with all the professional skills. Now are we ready for the format or for the paper? No, not yet. Why? Because the most important thing, exam techniques. What to read, when to read, how to draft, time management, linking techniques, all this you need to know before we attempt a paper. All right. Right. Can I suggest a small break now before we, because exam technique is a very heavy duty thing and I want to spend quality time on this. So it's, what time is it now? It is like 6:32 in Dubai. So how about 6:45? 15, 13-minute break is okay? All right, 13-minute break. I will see you at 6:45 Dubai time. Just calculate your own time, 13 minutes break. All right, so our next section is exam technique. And this is a very, very important section because SBL is all about exam techniques. Okay. So I want to cover this slowly and in detail. So the first and foremost thing is time management. It is very important that you attempt 100 marks paper. You should not miss out 10 or 20 marks. So time management is very important. So the total allowed time is 3 hours and 15 minutes. Okay. So what I suggest is that we should spend 15 minutes in reading and planning, and the remaining time should be spent on drafting. So out of 3 hours and 15 minutes, I want to spend 10 to 15 minutes in planning and the remaining 3 hours in the actual drafting. Now, what do we do in the planning? When I say you spend 10 to 15 minutes in planning, so the first 10 to 15 minutes, what should we do? So the first thing is when you open your paper, the first thing is copy paste all tasks in the scratch pad. Copy paste all tasks in the scratch pad. Hmm? Notice this word, scratch pad. Once we have copy pasted all the tasks in the scratch pad, then I will read the tasks and identify the topics. Then I will take a quick look at each exhibit and note exhibit number on the scratch pad under the respective task. Do not read the exhibit in detail. I will just spend like 5 seconds on the exhibit just to identify what it is about. And then decide sequence of your answer, which is easier question first. Now I will actually do it right now to demonstrate this. Okay. And I think all this will take maximum 10 minutes. Okay, so let's do this paper which we have opened. So when you open the paper, the first thing is the landing page. So I will look at my role. I will look at the dates because when we draft a report or memo, we have to write date, right? So I know my role. I'm an independent business analyst and the date. Now I will copy paste all tasks in the scratch pad, not the Word document, not this document, but in the scratch pad. Do you see a scratch pad here? Now you might ask, sir, why do we need to copy the requirements on the scratch pad? Correct? So let's see. Anyone knows, can anyone think of a reason why I am saying to copy paste all requirements on the scratch pad? Any idea? How do we save time? Okay. Yeah, Rupinder, absolutely correct. You see, all the requirements are not available, right? All the requirements are not available on one page. So right now, if I click on task number one, I can see task number one only. How do I go to task number two? I have to close the window. I have to scroll down. I have to press next. And then I open the task. Then how do I go to task number three? Again, I have to close, scroll down, next task number three. So it's better that we copy paste all the tasks in one place so that we don't have to scroll forward, scroll backwards every time we want to go and read the requirement. Does it make sense? It will save time. So it might take 30 to 40 seconds to copy, but it will save time in future when we have to, so that we can avoid going forward and backward. So let me show you. I will open the requirement. I've opened the requirement. I will open the scratch pad. And you just need to copy the technical requirement, the one in bold. I don't want you to copy the professional skills. We will look into it later. Right now, the objective is just to identify the technical requirements. So A and then B. Done. I will scroll down, go to next. I will open task number two. I will open the scratch pad again. I will copy A1 and A2. And I will again scroll down, go to the next task, task number three. I will copy. So now on the scratch pad, I've copied all the tasks, task A, task B, task 2A, then task 2B, and then A1, A2, and then so now all the technical requirement is in front of me in one page now. I don't have to scroll back or scroll forward anymore. So it will take you 30 to 40 seconds. The more you will practice, the more faster you will get. It's doable in 30 seconds. So now let's read. It says prepare a report for the board which evaluate the opportunities and challenges which PSS must consider in relation to the proposed contract with Zealand Health. In relation to the proposed contract with Zealand Health. So I just bolded core requirement that this topic is we have to talk about the proposal contract with Zealand Health and then explain the actions which comply with EMAS and environmental policy. Prepare a briefing note, assess the issues raised by the staff survey and actions to be taken to address these issues. How talent management program can support. So I'm just trying to identify the core topics. Threats of big data analytics and identify the weakness in the internal control activities and recommend. So now I know that I need to talk about some proposed contract. Then we need to talk about EMAS policy and environmental policy. Then the next question is something to do with staff survey. The next question is to do with talent management program. And then we have to talk about big data analytics and some internal control weaknesses. So 6 topics are there. Now what I will do is, now I know that, okay, these are the requirements. Now I will take a look at the exhibit. So the exhibit is contract terms to supply bed mattresses, proposed contract terms, all these things. So which question do you think this exhibit can link to? Is there any question regarding proposed contract? 1A. So I will just write here exhibit 1. So now I know that this question I have to answer using exhibit 1. Now the next exhibit is staff survey. Is there any question relating to staff survey? Yeah, this one. Assess the issues raised in the staff survey and recommend action. So this exhibit is exhibit 2. I just mentioned here exhibit 2. That when I will do this question, I will read exhibit 2. Now, email from HR director, it talks about staff training and development. Is there any talent management program question? Yeah, this one, talent management program. So this one is exhibit 3, right? And then email from finance director talks about the data and internal control weakness. So I think question number 4, this one is about data and internal control. So this is exhibit 4 and this one is also exhibit 4. So what I just did, the first step was that I copy pasted the technical requirement on a scratch pad. The second thing was I read the requirements and I identified what is the core topic of the requirement: talent management program, staff survey, internal control weakness, big data analytics, proposed contract. Then I quickly browsed through the exhibits and I mentioned the concerned exhibit number in front of the respective requirement. Is this clear? Is this simple? So maximum it will take you 10 minutes. In fact, 10 minutes is also on a higher side. Now, have you noticed that there is one question which does not have any exhibit? Which question is that? There is one question which does not have an exhibit. This one, right? 1B. About e-mass and environmental policy. So when there is no exhibit, that is a red flag. That tells me that there will be no or very limited information. Because when there is an exhibit, then I have no issues. I will read the exhibit and I can extract my points. But when there is no bloody exhibit, I'm stuck, right? So for me, this question looks like a bouncer question. Do you know what a bouncer question is? Something which is difficult, we might struggle. I will cover that after a few minutes. So should we start with this question then? If when you are starting the paper, should we start with this question? Or should we do it in the end? I would never do it in sequence because this is 1B, but I will push it to the end. I will do it in the end. I will first do the easier questions. For example, this one looks easy that, there's some proposed contract. This is a common sense question, this one, that there is a proposal and we have to talk about the opportunities and challenges of this proposal. So we have to look at the pros and the cons of this proposal. So it's a common sense, logical thinking that we will read the exhibit and we will just look at the pros and the cons. So if you are good in common sense question, you can start with this question. EMAS, I know I will do it in the last. And then there's a staff survey. If you think HR topic is your strong topic, you have good understanding about staff survey, it should be an easy question. Again, this one is about, talent management program, like trainings, advantages and disadvantages of training. If you think you are good in this topic, if you think you are good in this, so you will personally decide which one is the easiest in your opinion. You should start with that and then slowly move towards the difficult questions with the bouncer question in the last. So all this is part of the initial planning in the first 10 minutes. And that's what I've mentioned here. In the first 10 minutes, we copy paste all the requirements in the scratch pad. We read all the tasks and identify the topics. We take a quick look at each exhibit and note exhibit number on the scratch pad under respective tasks. We don't have to read the exhibit in detail because we will read it when we actually start the drafting that question, and then you decide the sequence of your answer, which is basically easier question first. Asad, normally 99% it is complete. Now, in the drafting time, you have to stop drafting and move to the next question as soon. Oh, sorry. So now regarding drafting, I follow 1.8 minutes per total marks. Okay. I apply 1.8 minutes, but on the total marks. So there are two types of marks, right? For example, there's a technical mark, like part B, internal control weakness is 12 marks technical, and then 4 marks professional. So total marks is 12 plus 4. 16 marks, right? So how many minutes should we give to 16 marks? 16 into 1.8, 28.8. Let's say 29 minutes, correct? Perfect. So what to do? Supposing we start drafting, our allowed time is 29 minutes. What to do if the answer is incomplete? If we are not able to complete the answer? You have two options, right? Basically, the first option is you can continue writing till you complete, which means that you are now overrunning the time. Or the other option is you stop writing, you move to the next question. And in the end, if you have 5-10 minutes left, you can always come back and add a couple of more points. Exactly. So this is what I'm saying, that stop writing and move to the next question as soon as the drafting time is. Just complete the paragraph which you were drafting. Just complete. Don't leave the paragraph incomplete. Just complete the particular point which you are drafting and move to the next question. Guys, can you please stop chatting amongst yourself? I'm seeing a lot of people are chatting amongst themselves. Okay. So any questions on time management? Very, very important. Any questions on time management? Now, time management can only improve through practice. What I taught you was theoretical, right? Okay, do this, do this, do this, do this. Now, how do you know what is your current speed? How do you know whether you are able to do this within the time? So, as I said in the start, SBL is all about drafting and time-based practice. That's the only way you can improve your time management, by picking up speed through more and more practice. That's it. So rather than spending time on chapters and theoretical knowledge, try to do more past papers, because application and timing is more important. Okay. Now let's move to the second important aspect, which is linking your answers with the exhibits. So, as I said in the start, there is no marks for general or theoretical answers. There is no marks for just copy pasting the information. Your answer should be in light, in the backdrop of the situation provided to you. So, linking means that we have to read the relevant exhibit and copy paste important information on the answer sheet. So the first step is I will read the exhibit and I will pick up some important points, important facts, and I will copy it on my answer sheet. And then I will explain or elaborate on those points and share my thoughts, talk about the reasons, talk about the impact, whatever is there in your mind. Okay. So this should be the approach. When start your point with a statement of fact, copied from the exhibit or the pre-seen material, and then elaborate about its impact on the business. So each paragraph or each point should start with a statement of fact which we have picked up from the exhibit, and then we can elaborate on it. That's how you will link back to the exhibit, right? When you are giving reference of any information from the exhibit, you're automatically linking your answers with the exhibit. So I will actually show this tomorrow. Tomorrow, when we will solve one question, we will apply this technique, how to read, how to identify the punchline, and then how to elaborate. Okay. Now, there's one more thing. We have to use exhibit 80 to 90% and pre-scene 10 to 20%. A lot of students, they ignore the exhibit, and majority of their answers are based on pre-scene. That's wrong. The examiner expects that you focus more on the exhibit and less on the pre-scene. So I've seen like 80% should be from the exhibit and 20% points should be from the pre-scene. Okay, so I will have a 2-day workshop once the pre-scene is published, and I will cover all these points in more detail there. Okay. Any questions on linking with exhibits? It's very simple. In summarized way, always start with a statement of fact or a punchline picked up from the exhibit and then explain or elaborate that point. That's the only simple way of linking. The pre-scene workshop is paid, but it's if you are my regular student or if you enroll in any of my paid batch, then it's free. But if you're a self-study student and you just want to enroll only for pre-scene, then you just pay the charges for the workshop and attend. Now, the third section of exam technique is number of points. So how many points are we supposed to write for any particular question? So it's very simple, right? It all depends on the marks. If the marks is less, we will give less points. If the marks is more, we will give more points. But do you think there is a link between timing and number of points? Do you think number of points and timings are linked? Of course. If we write more points, it will take more time. Right? So we have to balance the timing versus the number of points according to the marks. So I normally follow 2 marks per point. So a well drafted point carries 2 marks. Clear? So our formula is that a one well drafted point, one logical point carries is worth 2 marks. So for a 10 marks question, how many points are required? 10 divided by 2, 5 points. Very simple. If you are not able to give 5 points, then at least 4 points. Is this clear? Ideally 5 points, but if you are not able to give 5 points because of time constraint or because the information is not available, whatever the reason, then at least 4 points. Now, if the question is worth 18 marks, how many points for 18 marks? 9 points. 18 divided by 2 is 9. And if you are not able to give 9 points, then at least 8 points. No, Ahmed, what's wrong with you? 19 divided by 2 is 8. Khalas. Ideally 8 points or minimum 7 points. Please don't complicate stuff. Now, if the question is worth 21 marks, 21 marks, odd number. So 21 divided by 2 is 10.5. So 10 to 11 points. 10 to 11. Okay. Minimum 10, ideally 11. Is that clear? And the marks which we are talking, I'm talking about total marks. Okay. We will pick up the total marks divided by 2, not the technical marks. Total marks divided by 2. So all my formula is based on total marks. The timing, the number of points, I want to be consistent. So timing is 1.8 minutes for total marks and number of points is total marks divided by 2. Clear? 1 point should be 1 para. So each point should be a separate paragraph. That's the professional way to present your argument or points, right? So if it is a 12 marks question, how many paragraphs should I expect to see? 6 paragraphs. 6 points means 6 paragraphs. Very good. Now there is an exception. Sometimes the question requires identify the weakness and give recommendation. Like for example, we just saw in this question, right? Question number 3B, evaluate the potential impact of the weakness identified and recommend actions. So there are two parts. First, we have to discuss the weakness and we have to then give the recommendation. Right. So in this kind of a question where you have to identify or discuss the weakness and give recommendation also. So it for me, it's basically two things, right? So identify the weakness is one thing and giving recommendation is. So 2 marks for identifying the weakness and 2 marks for identifying the recommendation. Is that clear? Because one well-drafted point is 2 marks. So I will give one paragraph discussing the impact and or the weakness and another paragraph giving solutions or recommendations. Okay. So now how do we calculate how many weaknesses are we supposed to give? For example, question number task number 3, right? B. 3B says evaluate the impact of the weakness and recommend, right? Impact and recommend. 12 marks plus 4, it is worth 16 marks. So for 16 marks, I need to give 16 divided by 2, 8 points, right? So 4 weaknesses and 4 recommendation. Is that clear? So you can also divide total marks by 4. If you want to do a simple calculation, when 2 things are required, then you divide total marks by 4. So 16 divided by 4 is 4. So I need to identify 4 weaknesses, and then I have to give 4 recommendations for one for each weakness. Yes, Ikra, correct. 1 paragraph for weakness, 1 paragraph for recommendation. These are 2 separate points, 2 marks each, so total 4 marks. And if you recall the format for these kind of question, I suggest a tabular format, remember? So it will be very easy for you. You make a small table, 4 weaknesses on left side and 4 recommendations on right side. Same thing applies on another. For example, sometimes the examiner says, identify the risk and give recommendation. So same approach. These are 2 things. We have to first identify the risk. This one is again 2 marks. And we have to give recommendation for the risk, 2 marks. So again, we will, if you want to calculate the number of risks required, we divide by 4. 2 marks for risk and 2 marks for recommendation, tabular format. One last thing, this one, try to give 1 extra point in easy questions, subject to time management. So sometimes there are some easy questions. By easy question, I mean that there is a lot of information available on the exhibit, but the marks is very less. I can easily write more points, but because the marks is less, I'm not writing all the points. So sometimes if I'm able to write 1 or 2 extra point, then go for it, but subject to time. If your time is up, your allowed time is up, then move on. In the last, when you have 10, 5, 10, 15 minutes left, you can always come back to the easy questions and add more points. Clear? No, Shazia, it's good. Okay, the next is format of your answer. Format of your answer, how you will draft, how you will present your answer. So if you know that each question, it requires a particular format, right? For example, this question says prepare briefing notes. Question number 3A wants you to prepare briefing notes. So the first step is before I start drafting, I will prepare the briefing note, the format, to, from, subject, date, introduction, and closure. So I will get the format in place first, and then I start putting in my points and my drafting. So the first step is prepare the skeleton of the answer or the template of the answer before you draft that question. Format, main heading, subheadings, closure. Then use information to start your point. Then all your points should be there, starting from the opening sentence. Adopt paragraph style of writing. I don't want bullet points, okay? It should be all paragraphs. If 5 points are required, 5 small paragraphs should be there. What should be the size of the paragraph or size of the point? Maximum 3 to 4 lines on the CB file. So your paragraph or your point should not be very lengthy, should not be very elaborative, because you will then overrun the time. Your point should be just 2 or 3 lines, short, simple, and to the point. So my paid students are already aware of how we are drafting our points, right? We are not going for lengthy explanations. Give subheadings for each point. Leave 1 line between each paragraph. Use tabular format for weakness recommendation type questions. Nil or minimum use of models. So tomorrow when we will solve one question, so you will see all these things happening in real. Any questions on the format? Okay. The last section of exam technique is called bouncer question. I call it bouncer question. It's, in cricket, those of you who knows, plays or watches cricket, you know what a bouncer is. The ball goes above the head, right? So bouncer question is a question which just flies above your head. You have no clue how to answer that question. For example, bouncer question is a question where there is no information, or you don't know the answer, or you actually don't know what to do. Is there a bouncer question in the paper which I'm just showing here? Did you notice any bouncer question? I mean, there is a question which does not have any exhibit, right? So for me, that's a red flag. That's a bouncer question. Because when there is no exhibit, from where the hell am I supposed to EMAS one, right? So EMAS is a bouncer question. What's the marks? Emax was 1B, right? So let me go to task number 1. Let me check the marks. So Emax question is 10 plus 4, 14 marks, right? In each and every SBL paper, there is always one bouncer question. Always. Did you understand that? In all SBL paper, there is always one bouncer question which you have no clue what to do. Why? Because the examiner wants to see how good you are in handling a situation. Do you panic? Do you stress out? Do you mess up on the timing? Because you see, a good CFO never stresses out, right? He plans his stuff. So that's the examiner's way of testing your wits, your, pressure handling skills. Okay. So yes, so 15 marks is an average marks for a bouncer question. So what to do? Strategy. The first thing is attempt this question in the last. So in the planning phase, we were able to identify the bouncer question, which was EMAS. So the first thing is I will skip that question, although it is question number 1B, but I will not do it in sequence. I will skip it. I will do it in the last. Then some little bit of firefighting techniques, you can define little bit just to fill space. So if you know what EMAS is, or if you know what an environmental policy is, just quickly write couple of lines on it. I think nothing much needs to be done. Maybe you can go through the pre-scene. Maybe there is some information in the pre-scene which you can use, right? But the last point is important. Do not use entire allowed time. Do not spend full time on the bouncer question. So, for example, this question was worth 14 marks. So, what is the allowed time? 14 into 1.8. So, I'm officially allowed 25 minutes for EMAS question. I would spend like 10, 12, maximum 15 minutes I'll just make the format, I will define, I will go through the pre-scene and write some garbage here and there, and I will save 10 to 15 minutes. I will not spend entire 25 minutes. Try to wrap it up in 10, 12 minutes. What should we do in the time which we save? Any brilliant idea? I will not use the 25. I will not use the full 25 minutes. I will use, let's say 15 minutes. So 10 minutes I have. So in those 10 minutes, I will go back to the easy questions or the incomplete questions. Remember? We were leaving questions incomplete, right? So I will go back. I will try to add 1 point in each question to complete it. Or if there's any easy question, I will add couple of points there so that I can compensate the marks. All this is happening in the last 30 minutes of your paper because we are doing bouncer question in the last, right? So in the last, just spend 10-15 minutes on the bouncer question, then leave it, and then try to add 3-4 points here and there so that you can get extra marks. Now, this is all easier said than done. Now, everybody is nodding their head, yes, yes, we will do. But when you are in an actual exam situation, you will be shit scared. You will panic. You will forget all these techniques, right? So this is what you need to train yourself through more and more mocks and practice. I mean, logically speaking, is it more wise to spend time on easy question, or is it more wise to spend time on a bullshit question? Right? It makes more sense to spend time on an easier question. We can add more points and we can score more marks rather than spending time on a bouncer question, because whatever you write, it's gonna go wrong. Whatever you write, it's all out of the blue, right? It's all assumption. There is no exhibit. So better, but I don't want to leave that question completely. Just do a little bit and then save 5, 10, 15 minutes and go back to the easier question to get more marks. Yes, Muhammad Umar, absolutely correct. So whatever you can do in the 15 minutes, use your common sense, you can use your pre-scene knowledge, but don't spend full time. Okay. Oh, so I want to go back and quickly recap the exam techniques because there was a lot of things we discussed. So the first slide was about time management. So we will spend like 10 minutes on planning, right? Deciding, looking at the topics, linking with the identifying the exhibits, and then deciding the sequence, identifying the bouncer questions. We'll spend like 10 minutes, and then we will move towards drafting. We will use formula total marks divided by 1.8 to calculate the time allowed. And for drafting, we use the formula total marks divided by 1.8 to calculate the time allowed, right? And once the allowed time is up, we will leave the question incomplete and move to the next question. Linking with the exhibit, very simple. Always try to start your point with a statement of fact picked up from the exhibit, right? Number of points is very simple. Total marks divide by 2. If it is a weakness and give recommendation, then total marks divide by 4. Format is very simple. You will make the template and you will adopt the paragraph style of writing. That's it. And bouncer question we will do in the last. We will spend half the time on bouncer question and save some time and go back to easier question or incomplete question and add more points there. Guys, exam technique. SBL is all about exam technique, time management, stress management, how you present your answers, number of points. So I cannot emphasize more on drafting and time-based mocks. Okay, this exam techniques can be the difference between pass and fail. All right, let's move on. So in my September batch, this gentleman, this good-looking, handsome guy, scored 90 marks in SBL. His name is Chirag. He's an Indian, but he is living in Dubai, UAE. So I want, do you want me to invite him to the webinar so that he can share his study plan and what the do's and the don'ts, like how he managed to score 90 marks? I'm interested in knowing from him that how he prepared, how he studied, what did he do in the exam so that he got 90 marks. So so I spoke with him. He's not available today because of the Diwali celebrations. He's busy today. I've requested him for tomorrow, right? Let's see. He hasn't replied as yet. I will try my best if he can join. If he cannot, then maybe in one of our live practice classes, I will invite him. All right. So, and then there were my 3 students who they were global prize winners in earlier papers. So one was Rahul from South Africa. In March 2023, he scored 92. And then there was one student from Malaysia. He's also scored 92 in June. And in December 23, this is all in 2023, Tulsi scored 92. They were global prize winners, right? I think he was number 1, and both of these were number 2. I have done a detailed interview with these guys, okay, to understand what they did. So if you want to see that detailed, it's on YouTube. The link is here. But I have made a summary from that interview. That what they have said, they have done. I've just picked up the common things and I've made a summary. So this is the tips from global prize winners, which I've interviewed personally. So during the preparation, so I have divided between preparation stage and during the exam. So in their preparation or study phase, so they all of them said that during the last 4 weeks, focus on revising important topics only and not the entire syllabus. That's the tip coming from global winners. Then give at least 4 hours each day during last 4 weeks. Focus 20% on theory and 80% on practice. So practice more. And they did 8 to 10 case studies, including 5 time-based mocks. Don't read examiner answer, it's for educational purposes only. And none of them used any book or revision kit. So this was their study plan. 4 hours every day, 20% on theory, 80% time on practice. They did 8 to 10 case studies. I think they did 2 times. During the exam, they started with the easiest question first. They rigorously focused on time management. They used a lot of professional language because they were working students. So their professional language was slightly better than non-working students. They used opening sentences. Think like a CFO, write short and brief answers, subheading. So they applied all these things, right? So I just thought I'd share with you the recipe, the strategy of the global prize winners during preparation stage and exam, so that right now you are also in the same stage. Only 5 weeks are left, so you can adopt all these things, right? It's very much possible. If they can score 92, then you can also score, right? Right. So my revision drafting batch is starting from 5th of November, which is coming Tuesday. So we will be doing 4 to 5 case studies, 3 to 4 mocks. One mock script will be checked. All classes will be recorded for later viewing. For example, if students are in a different time zone, like Europe or something, so they can view the recording at their own time zone. And then it includes the pre-scene workshop and a grand revision 3 days before the paper. This is the investment. This is the inquiry number, right? And this is the timetable for the revision classes. So 2nd November is webinar day 1. 3rd November is webinar day 2. And then from Tuesday, our practice will start. So we will start with specimen paper 2, Yex Marine. We will spend like 8 hours on this paper, 4 hours on day 1 and 4 hours on day 2. We will discuss the paper, we will do drafting and all those things. Then another paper, then another paper, then first mock, second mock, then another paper, then third mock, and then the pre-scene workshop on 26th and 27th, and then a extra class for financial projections and all those things. And finally, in the end, one quick revision on 30th November. All this is part of the revision batch. So those of you who are already enrolled in regular or reset batch, then it is already included in your package. If you want to enroll in revision batch separately, just for drafting, then this is the inquiry number. Okay. So today, that's the end of today's class. I wanted to discuss with this guy who scored 90 marks, but he's not available. So I might start with him tomorrow. All right. So now I'm open to questions. So tomorrow's timing is the same, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Dubai time. Which paper we will do tomorrow, I will decide tomorrow. It's okay. I will just decide tomorrow. Can you please post the timetable? Okay, I will post in the paid group. It's 5 to 10. The revision classes is 6 to 10 p.m. Dubai time. Yes. Mazin, I will cover this in the pre-scene. Pre-scene has the backgrounds and some information which we try and use in the answers, like the mission, the goals, the objectives, the values, these kind of things we try to use in our drafting. Abdul Karim, it's fine. I will cover the study plan tomorrow in detail. Salar, that's not correct. The support team is very much live and active. Can you WhatsApp me? Maybe you are messaging some on a wrong number. You just message on the number which I have given here on the screen. Hare Baba, so tomorrow's class is 5 to 8 Dubai time, and the revision classes which will start from Tuesday, that is from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Dubai time. Is top 25 sufficient? I will cover this tomorrow in my study plan. Revision classes is 6 to 10 Dubai time. It's not every day, it's 2 days and then 1 day off. So I will share the timetable. I will share the study plan for self-study students tomorrow as well. No, Safwan, we did not solve any question, right? No, Umar, you will never get full marks, 2 out of 2. That's not possible. All right, guys. So a lot of repetitive questions and a lot of questions which I will actually cover in tomorrow's webinar. So please hold back your question, and because it will be, most of them will be answered tomorrow. All right. So guys, I will see you tomorrow, same time, and we will cover technical articles tomorrow. We will do drafting tomorrow, and then we will discuss the study plan for self-study students as well as paid students, right? So I will see you guys tomorrow, 5 p.m. Dubai time. Okay. If you think any of your question is unattended, my apologies. You can always WhatsApp me as well directly. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. See you guys tomorrow. Take care and good night.